Welcome to Crime Files TikTok Compilations, the vault of real horror, where murder isn't fiction and the footage never lies. In this collection, we unearth chilling clips, haunting case files, and real-life moments that expose the darkest corners of the human mind. What you're about to witness is raw, unsettling, and unforgettable. These aren't stories, they're warnings.
Nobody would have ever believed that 2 weeks after their beautiful wedding ceremony, she would be found brutally murdered. 32-year-old Melissa Jubain and Brian Gentero got married on August 24th of this year, literally less than 2 months ago. Melissa and Brian were doing long distance. She was a nurse in Oregon and Brian worked and lived in Washington State. Their plan was that once they got married, Melissa would move to Washington and be with Brian and start their new life together. But unfortunately, that would never happen because on September 4th at approximately 10:18 a.m., police were called to Melissa's house to do a welfare check when she failed to show up to her job. Melissa was scheduled to work that morning at the hospital, and when she didn't show up, her co-workers knew there was something wrong because she was very punctual and reliable. Police first noticed that Melissa's car was still parked where she usually leaves it, meaning that on that morning she didn't even make it to her car. After looking for Melissa for days, she was finally found, and her neighbor, Bryce Sherbert, was arrested. They found crucial evidence which links Bryce to Melissa's murder, but they still have not revealed details about that. Now, Melissa and Bryce lived on the same floor in that apartment, and it was stated that he was obsessing over her for some time and just decided to take her life. I hope they come out with more details.
I don't think I will ever recover after learning about what happened to Annalise Michel and listening to the audio tapes of her exorcism. On July 1st, 1976, 23-year-old Annalise Michel would die after undergoing 67 exorcisms over the span of 10 months for demonic possession. What she experienced leading up to her death is horrifying. So Annalise lived in West Germany with her 3 sisters and parents, and they grew up very religious as Roman Catholics, and they went to mass twice a week. When she was 16 years old, she suddenly blacked out at school and walked around in a trance-like state. Her parents didn't quite understand why, but a year later, she blacked out once again. She was in bed this time and woke up in another trance-like state, having wet the bed. Her parents then took her to the doctor where she was diagnosed with psychosis caused by temporal lobe epilepsy. She was then put on a string of medication to try and treat both, but nothing worked. And she was eventually also diagnosed with depression. By 20 years old, Annalise's mental condition got even worse, and it was at this point that she refused to be around anyone or anything religious. In 1970, she had a devastating third seizure, and after this, she started seeing the devil everywhere she went, and she would hear voices telling her that she was damned and that she was going to rot in hell. After 5 years of no improvement on medication, Annalise and her parents began to think that she was possessed by a demon. So they appealed to the Catholic Church for an exorcism, but initially they were rejected. They lost all hope in traditional doctors and medication, and eventually they stopped going to the doctor altogether. But in that time frame, Annalise's behavior grew more and more terrifying. She became incredibly aggressive and would hurt herself. She drank her own urine and would eat insects and crawl under tables. It got so bad that she even barked like a dog for 2 days, would compulsively do up to 400 squats a day, and even bit the head off of a dead bird. She would then resort to growling and was then taken to a commune. During her time there, she couldn't even be in the same room as a crucifix, and she would refuse to drink holy water. When she would walk up to the shrine, she physically couldn't enter because she said that the soil burned like fire and she couldn't take it any longer. Annalise said that when she looked around at the others praying, it looked like they were gnashing their teeth at her. It was there that she was determined to be suffering from demonic possession. In 1975, the family finally got approval from a local bishop to begin performing exorcisms, but this was ordered to be in total secrecy. The exorcisms would be performed by 2 priests and started in late September of 1975. Over the next 10 months, Annalise would be subjected to 1 or 2 exorcisms a week, and those would last up to 4 hours long. In total, she underwent 67 exorcisms, and the audio tapes from them are terrifying.
Nein, ich sag's nicht. Aber das Ding, das gäbe Sachen in die Drecksau, sie ist am ihn eingepflanzt.
Meinst du, die habe ich jetzt an mir genommen?
Ja, ja!
So muss ich sagen, dass das andere.
During these exorcisms, Annalise said that she was possessed by these 6 demons, and one thing that she said will forever haunt me. She said, quote, "People are as stupid as pigs. They think it's all over after death. It goes on," end quote. These exorcisms were so violent that she broke both of her knees and had ripped the tendons from continually kneeling in prayer. She also began refusing to eat food. On July 1st, 1976, 10 months after the first exorcism, Annalise died. Her official cause of death was from malnutrition and dehydration. She was in a state of near starvation for nearly a year, and she weighed only 66 pounds. Because of the state she was in, Annalise's parents and the 2 priests performing the exorcisms were arrested, and their case went to trial. At the trial, doctors argued that Annalise wasn't ever possessed, and that the manifestations of demonic possession were a psychological effect of her strict religious upbringing and her epilepsy. The defense argued that nothing they did was illegal, and in court they played the audio tapes from the exorcisms to prove that she was indeed possessed. They also said that Annalise was finally freed of demonic possession right before she died. It was proven that her death could have been prevented, and all parties were found guilty of negligent homicide. The priests were sentenced to 6 months in jail, but that was later reduced to 3 years probation and having to pay a fine. Although her parents were found guilty, under German law, they weren't charged because they'd already suffered enough. Several years after the exorcism of Annalise Michel, the Catholic Church took back the claim that she was ever possessed. I first learned about this case after watching this movie, which is loosely based on Annalise, and the movie still, to this day, scares me so bad. This is actually the only topic that I am genuinely scared to talk about. Like, it is such bad energy.
Whatever you do not feel bad for this woman. This woman's name is Lovely Kristen Antoinette Johnson, and she had a 6-month-old baby. But one more thing is, she was a severe drug addict, and she would often invite friends over to her house or go to her friends' houses to do drugs. When she would do this, she would just lock her son up in a car seat and leave him inside the house. And she would place him in the attic where she wouldn't be able to hear him. Well, on this particular occasion, the little baby went 4 days without any food and starved to death. Apparently, the baby had diaper rash so severe his skin was literally falling off. When she found the baby, his body was already decomposing, and she still took him to the ER and got arrested there. And she was sentenced to 20 to 80 years in prison for the murder of her baby.
What were you arrested for? Murder? So you've probably been on the news, huh? You okay? Hang in there. I just killed my husband. I'm gonna have to go dress her out. Come on, let's go this way. Just gotta take the scrubs off of her. So what's this lady's story?
She's being booked for murder. She shot her husband early this morning.
It's probably on the news. I figured I probably missed something.
Right.
All right, thanks. Here's a copy of the charges. All right, go ahead and have a seat up front. They're booking her in for first degree.
Oh, here's my ex-wife right here. Anyway, I just did something crazy, man. I just shot my ex-girlfriend in the head, yo. Felt like a dream. Like, I never thought I would be that guy. I've been going through a custody battle. I've been going through having my ex-wife say I molested my children and all kinds of craziness. All of this is my ex-wife. So she next, and then I'm going to do myself too. But I just wanted to say this to people. Don't play with people's emotions, man. Don't lie on these men. Oh, here's my ex-wife right here.
This is the story of 2 women, Tara Labong, aged 41, and Wendy Natalie Black, age 42, who were killed by the same man within hours of each other, 44-year-old Raji Sharif Black, who was a nurse anesthetist. He confessed to his crimes on Facebook Live and was also caught on Facebook during the act. Raji claimed he was pushed into doing what he did because both women had conspired against him, with his kids making him depressed and having nothing to live for anymore. He killed both women then.
This was the most evil lady that ever lived. Her name was Jenny Talia. She was born in 1917, Nebraska. To her town, she was just a lonely widow with a farm and a soft voice. But between 1942 and 1963, at least 17 people vanished within a few miles of her farm. Hitchhikers, salesmen, even a deputy sheriff. No one suspected it was her kidnapping these people. The police thought it was just wild animals or bad luck near the river. It wasn't until 1965, when her barn caught fire, that the truth started leaking out. Firefighters broke through a sealed wall and found chairs, 5 of them bolted to the floor with restraints, a rusty sink with blood in the drain, and glass jars that held human fingers and other body parts. When they arrested her, Jenny didn't flinch. She smiled and said, "I gave them a home, and they gave me company." She lost her life 5 years later in a jail cell. But the scariest part is that they only found 7 victims, while Jenny had taken 17 lives. She kept a notebook with all their names crossed out. No one knows where the others are.
This might be one of the most disturbing stories I've told on this page. I definitely advise viewer discretion if you are super sensitive about death, bodies, things like that. So the woman in this photo, her name is Katrina McLean, and she was the owner of Cat's Creepy Creations. It was essentially a shop where she would take weird, odd, macabre things and would kind of like repurpose them, recreate them, kind of like this doll she has here. So Katrina and a bunch of other people, including these two, which was the morgue director and his wife, were in trouble with the law because they had been selling people's body parts. So essentially what he would do is he would end up letting people, including Katrina, come in, decide what body parts they wanted, and then he would sell them to these people. Katrina would then take these body parts and repurpose them. Here she has a skull that she bedazzled, and she would sell them. Cedric and Denise Lodge were basically just stealing body parts, including organs, selling them on the black market, essentially. It's really sad that these people had donated their bodies for medical advancement purposes, and they were just treated like this. And I can't imagine the pain the families are going through, knowing that some of their loved ones were put through this show, essentially, just making a mockery of them. Katrina was let go by the judge because it was a non-violent offense, and she had never done anything like this before, yada yada yada. I'm pretty sure her Facebook page is still up as well, that has all these weird things on it, which needs taken down because those are
The woman you just saw in that video leading the class, 26-year-old Reagan Gray, turned out to be a pedophile. Just last month, Reagan was arrested for having an inappropriate relationship with one of the 15-year-olds that she was in charge of at her church. At the time of the abuse, Reagan was teaching at the Little Rock Christian Academy and volunteered for her church Emmanuel Baptist student ministry. So basically, Reagan tried her hardest to work around as many children as possible. Who knows what kind of horrific thoughts were running through her mind at all times when she was around these kids. Reagan, before her arrest, was a woman of God, someone who devoted her life to living a pure, holy life. But in 2020, the parents of a student allegedly found text messages between his teacher and himself. Keep in mind, he was a minor. They confronted Reagan about it. She said she would cut off all communication with the kid, and she insisted that it had never been physical. However, in a counseling session in 2023, Gray herself admitted that the relationship had been physical and sexual. And after she ratted on herself, an arrest affidavit was secured, and she was eventually arrested. Now, the teenage victim would actually state that Reagan would send him naughty photographs every single day while they were communicating. They also said that they kept their activity to only stuff using the mouth, because she said that she and the student needed to stay pure, which is just disgusting. But this church has had a lot of scandals this year. The same church in March of this year revealed that the children's former assistant children's program director, a man named Patrick Stephen Miller, had had an inappropriate relationship with 2 young girls, and he had assaulted them while they were inside of the church. Hopefully the legal system hands this woman a punishment that goes along with the severity of this crime. But in America, you really never know. She'll probably get 2 years and be out on the street again to victimize more young children.
Every clip you watch today is more than just a story. It's a chilling reminder that real life can be darker than fiction. If these crimes shook you, disturbed you, or left you with questions, don't stay silent. Hit that subscribe button to join a community that refuses to forget. Like this video to keep these stories alive. Share it to spread awareness, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Who do you think was really behind it? Or what part shocked you most?